Hey there, and welcome to another deep dive.
Today we're diving into the world of technical writing.
But with a twist.
Because the article you sent in, it's about a new podcast.
About technical writing.
Ah.
Talk about meta, right?
Right.
It definitely caught my eye, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Clearly, you've got your finger on the pulse of, like, what's happening in this world, and I am so ready to explore this with you.
I love it.
So we're not talking about just any technical writer here.
This article is by Curt Robbins.
And this is someone who's worked with the heavy hitters, FedEx, Microsoft.
The kind of client list
Wow, yeah.
most writers only dream of.
Exactly.
So when somebody like that decides to launch a podcast,
It makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
it really does.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, something's going on here.
Yeah, for sure.
So he actually addresses this whole shift, going from writing to audio.
Right in his
He
announcement,
talks about inclusivity
wanting to reach people who maybe learn better with audio.
or who have difficulty reading.
And that really struck a chord with me because I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
When are you most likely to choose a podcast?
Over, like, an article, for example.
I'm a podcast while walking the dog kind of person. It's like my brain's version of multitasking.
That's great.
It's like I'm doing two things at once.
That's right.
So,
You're already ahead of the game.
yeah, maybe.
Well, and you've just highlighted a key reason why this is so significant, right?
We're moving towards a world of multimodal learning.
It's not just about, the information being out there.
But it's about it being accessible
In the format that works best for you.
at any given time.
Hmm.
So, in a way, by choosing to do this deep dive with us today,
You're already ahead of the curve.
absolutely.
You're opting for
Yeah.
a curated analysis of this information.
As opposed to just reading the article yourself.
For sure, you don't have to do the heavy lifting.
Exactly. We'll do it for you.
That's right, exactly.
So it's clear that Robbins is tuned into this whole trend.
Yeah.
But what I really appreciate
It's how much he gets the whole time crunch thing.
that, I think so many of us are dealing with these days.
Oh, for sure.
He talks
The creating content that lets you absorb and learn as much as possible.
while taking as little of your bandwidth as necessary.
It's like he's reading my mind. Right. It seems like he really understands the value of our time.
Absolutely. Being respectful of people's time and their attention.
What do you think?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, in a world that's just overflowing with information.
Efficiency is key, right?
And it's interesting to note, even Robbins' article about his podcast embodies that principle.
The use of bolding, concise paragraphs.
Everything is geared toward delivering value.
Quickly and effectively.
He's not just talking the talk.
He's walking the walk.
He's walking the walk, exactly.
I love that.
So, okay, we've established,
Curt Robbins knows his stuff, right?
as a technical writer, he clearly knows how to do it.
As someone who understands his audience.
He's in touch. But
Yeah.
let's zoom out for a second.
What can we all take away from this?
Regardless of our industry,
Regardless of whether or not we even like podcasts.
what are the bigger implications here?
That's the crucial question, isn't it?
I think Robbins' foray into podcasting offers.
Two major insights.
Okay, lay those insights on me. I'm ready.
All right, so insight number one.
It might seem kind of obvious, but it's amazing how often this gets overlooked.
Content format matters.
It's not enough to have, really valuable, interesting information if you're not delivering it in a way that works.
It's just like that old saying, right?
What's that?
It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
But in this case, it's more like,
It's not just what you say, it's how you make them want to hear it.
ooh, I like that.
Because even the most brilliant message, right? If it's not reaching the right people,
In the right way.
it just falls flat.
Right, it's just noise at that point.
Exactly, just noise.
Exactly.
So, and that kind of leads us to takeaway number two here.
Which I think this is really embodied by Robbins taking this leap, right?
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Yes.
He already has this audience for his writing.
What he's going
He's venturing into this new territory, this new world of podcasting.
And that willingness to adapt, that willingness to be like,
All right, I'm going to try something new.
I mean, that is so essential, especially now. I mean,
Technology, consumption habits.
things are changing so fast.
Oh, constantly.
Constantly evolving, and you got to keep up.
Yeah.
So it really makes me wonder.
Is this a sign of things to come for the wider world of technical communication?
Like 5 years from now, is every technical manual
Going to come with a companion podcast.
right? Who knows? Maybe.
I don't know.
That's what I find so fascinating about this.
It's more than an article about a podcast,
It's a little glimpse into
info we share for
how we consume information.
and how those methods are changing, like literally right in front of us.
It's true.
So if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture here.
It's like this move by Robbins.
Could be a simple, it's more technical fields, right?
Sure.
Okay, maybe I need to branch out.
Maybe I need to think beyond just the
written word, right? The traditional way of doing things.
And diversify that content.
Absolutely.
I mean, just imagine
those dense, technical manuals that we've all, wrestled with. At some point, suddenly they're brought to life
by these engaging podcasts. It's like it could make technical information for a much wider audience.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, I have to admit, you've got me wondering now what the podcast for this deep dive would sound like.
But let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
We've talked about format.
We've talked about experimentation.
Yeah, how does this translate for our listener?
What could they actually do
with this information?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because it requires turning the spotlight inward a little bit.
It's about self-reflection.
Both as a consumer of information.
And as a creator.
Self-reflection. Okay, I like it. I'm in. So where do we start?
Well, it starts with asking yourself a few simple questions, right?
Yep.
What kind of information do you need? Like, what do you really need to absorb regularly?
Yeah, like for work, for hobbies, just to keep up with the world. Like there's so much coming at us all the time.
Exactly.
It's easy to just go with the flow, scroll through those feeds, whatever's thrown at us.
Right, just whatever pops up.
But taking a moment to actually be intentional about it. Okay, I can see where you're going with this.
Yeah, so you've got that what, right?
Okay.
The what you need.
Right.
The next question is, how can you best get that information?
Yeah, how? How is the question? Because sometimes the way that I'm trying to absorb it is not working.
Right, exactly.
I'm trying to make it work, but it's just not happening.
Forcing it.
It's like this is painful.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a better way. I just haven't thought about it.
Precisely. Yeah. So maybe instead of forcing yourself to get through that super dense industry report.
Oh, tell me about it.
You decide, you know what? I'm going to listen to a podcast discussion on this topic while I'm commuting.
Yes. Or driving, or, I love to clean while I listen to podcasts.
There you go. Or instead of being completely overwhelmed by like a mountain of technical documentation, you search for like a video tutorial instead.
Oh my gosh, yes. The YouTube rabbit hole, I've been there.
It exists for a reason.
It does.
It's about understanding your own learning style, right?
That's great.
And then tailoring like your content consumption
to match. Oh my gosh, it's brilliant in its simplicity.
Right. So simple.
But so many of us don't do it.
I know.
And on the flip side, what if I'm the one creating the content? This has got me thinking about my own stuff now.
Absolutely.
Like, am I making it easy? Am I thinking about this?
You're hitting on a really important point, because if you're the one sharing information,
right,
are you considering all the different ways your audience might want to receive it?
See, and this is where I think Curt Robbins, launching this podcast, he's onto something, right?
He gets it.
Because he recognized that there are probably people out there who love technical writing just like he does. But they might not want to read long articles every day.
Totally.
And he found a different way to connect with those people, to meet them where they are.
Exactly.
So it all comes back to that multimodal learning.
It all connects, yeah.
And it's not about ditching written content. It's not about saying, like, okay, podcasts are the only way.
Right. It's not one or the other.
It's about having options.
Yes, exactly. Having options.
Okay, so to sum up, today we have talked about format.
We've talked about experimenting.
We've talked about a little self-reflection, which is always good.
A little introspection never hurt anybody.
It's true. It's true. Except when it does, but we won't go there.
Exactly.
Any final words of wisdom for our listeners today before we wrap this thing up?
Here's my challenge to your listeners.
Okay, I like it.
What one action will you take after this?
Ooh, I like it. Putting it back on them.
What one action are you going to take? It could be small. It could be big.
It could be small.
Maybe it's just thinking about things a little differently. Maybe it's just thinking about things differently.
Maybe it's trying a new format.
Try a new format, exactly.
The beauty of these deep dives
is that it's just the beginning.
It's jumping off point.
Right. It's sparking that curiosity.
Yes.
It's encouraging people to ask their own questions.
Maybe find new perspectives.
Exactly. And who knows what you'll discover, right?
On that note of optimistic curiosity,
we're going to wrap up this deep dive.
Listener, wherever you are,
whatever you're doing,
keep exploring, keep learning.
Yeah.
Keep those amazing questions coming.
Happy listening.
And happy learning.